Hi guys, welcome to Thrive, the podcast from the John Good Group. Today I'm with Matt Carr from Carrs Pasties, and we are delving into the family business, the third generation family business. Today he's one of three brothers that own and run the company, and you are going to find out all about the story of the business as you listen to the podcast. There's three big takeaways for me, so tune in, relax, get yourself a drink and enjoy the next 45 minutes or so. Well, Matt, welcome to Thrive. Thank you very much for having us today.
Thanks for coming.
Matt is one of the owners of Carrs Pasties, 85-year-old bakery based here in Bolton. Matt, just tell us how it started.
Well, it's the third generation family firm. So it started on Hollowell Road in Bolton, about 2 miles down the road. We had a general store, my grandparents had a general store that served the mill workers basically of the local district, and formed a big queue around the block whenever we decided to start knocking out pies and pasties from the back room. We found some ledgers recently for the 1940s, I think it was, it might have been in the 30s. And it was like a double entry bookkeeping sort of, these old ledgers things. And we had 4 suppliers at the time, and one of them was Warburton's.
Okay.
And, who were also just down the road.
Yeah.
Then some general store, and then some just ingredient stuff. But yeah, it was a very simple start, really. And that one product, the meat and potato pasty, hasn't changed that much since then. There's probably less beef dripping in there now, but it's grown and grown and grown. But this meat and potato pasty, which is a staple of Bolton, has sort of seen us through all the good times and bad times, and we've managed to fashion a business now that is for everybody in the UK.
Superb.
So, yeah.
Superb. We'll go through some of the generational shifts shortly, but what's your earliest memory of the family business?
I've got a few. So if you're very short, when you're 5 or 4 or whatever it is, there's a lot of times where my dad would have to call into the shop and I'm in the car. I said, right, we're just going in here. And so it was always at Hollowell Road. Where we are here was built in 1975, I think, or 76. So I would have been 1 then. So I don't really remember too much about hair. I always used to seem to go to Hollowell Road when I was younger, and there'd be just legs everywhere. Yeah. And I'd look up, and at some point somebody'd loom down at me and go, sort of look after the little one, shove a meat and potato pasty in my hand, and then I'd just, those fly traps in doorways, like plastic, and I'd sort of stand.
Now we're going back some years,
and I'd sort of stand out of the shop, sort of playing with that, eating my pasty, and there'd always be somebody coming around the side door who thinks they know the family, going, "All right, John, how are you doing? I'm just coming in for," and they'd always have a meat pie or something like that. There'd be this sort of ritual of serving those in the know customers, and I'd just watch them come and go and watch drivers come in and out.
And so at that time, that would have been normal for you, right? So when did you start to realise actually that isn't normal, and what you were experiencing was different because of the institution that had been the bakery in the town?
I think it's probably school summer fairs.
Okay.
So my dad, we all went, I've got a lot of cousins, so just to give you a update on the second generation, my dad John, my uncle Bernard, my uncle David and my auntie Veronica all quit their jobs in the late 60s to form a limited company that is Carrs Pasties Limited, and sort of then got a massive grant from Bolton Council of all things to build the site that we're on, the site just next door to this building, and it was a going concern for all of that time. But the gross profit was great. If you look at the actual figures now that I'm in business, I've learned to see what's a healthy business and what isn't. And they had no cash. We never had any money growing up because this massive debt of this of the factory had to be paid off, and it was a 20-year process. Wow. So the business was growing slowly. It was all doing great. Yeah. You'd be happy with the growth figures, but there was never any net profit at the end of it. Okay. But it was okay.
All servicing that debt.
Oh yes, yeah. There was no money in the business until there was like a hockey stick around early 90s.
Do you think that the second generation understand some of the risks that they were taking at that time, given what you've described actually happened?
from my conversations that I had with, so my dad died about, actually I don't actually know how many years ago it was, but it was a few years ago. Yeah. My Uncle Bernard died quite early, David last year. Veronica's the only one who's still around, but I've spoken to a lot of them many times over the years about, what happened? How did you do this?
Yeah.
And the answer was kind of the same reason that we're in it for, which is we've got this product that everybody loves, and it's kind of insulates you from outside pressures of recessions and all kinds of other things. There's a certain number of people that will always turn up here and buy a meat and potato pasty from us, as long as we fulfill their expectations, which is the simple product that tastes great and reminds them of growing up. That pasty's been in this town for 80 years now.
Yeah.
If you like Carrs Pasties, you've got a full life of remembering it.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, and that's something that is special, definitely. But it's also something that we can trade on.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, I think we would be doing some affairs because everyone, it's a community type of family business. We're always trying to help out here and there. And so St. Brendan Summer Fairs or Thornley Summer Fair, there'd always be some sort of pasty supply or, something like that. And it wasn't until I realised that, all right, hang on a minute, somebody's bringing in 200 pasties to this function and I'm at this function and everybody's going, yes, Carrs Pasties. And you get into sort of 6 or 7 and you're starting to realise, all right, so everybody knows about this. It's not just a thing that we sell in a shop.
Yeah.
And then you go to school and everybody calls you Pasty.
that was the nickname, was it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
At Thornley, my cousin Angela and my cousin Jackie were in the same year as me. One was David's daughter, one was Bernard's daughter, and somebody in the playground in secondary school would shout Pasty, and 3 of us would turn round.
Right,
but it'd actually be 6 or 7 of us because there's cousins right through the years, you know. So it's a bit weird, that, isn't it? Really.
Well, it's okay.
Yes,
it's okay.
It is what it is.
So you've gone through school. You're starting to recognise this as an institution in the town, and people know who you are, even though you don't know who they are.
Sure.
Were you always destined to come into the family business, or what were you thinking when you were getting to that time now where you're going to move into your career? Where was your head at?
So there's no question that we were very lucky as kids to be able to get jobs as soon as we were 16.
Yeah.
Well, look, it was the 80s, maybe slightly less than 16. We could come in and get some work done. We'd be putting foil trays in a foil tray hole on a line. Yeah. Or scraping trays was a brilliant one. You could spend a whole summer doing that.
Right, okay.
So you'd always have a bit of money, and a bit of, packing frozen pasties was something I did for years and years. Okay. But me and Liam and Joe, who are now the brothers that are in the business, we've all done every job in the business. This lot who work for us right now probably have no way of knowing that because we don't tell them and they don't remember because they weren't here. But we're pretty experienced in the business, and we've got this situation now where I got to the age of 18. I went into sixth form, followed science and maths and stuff, and I wanted to go and do something at university. Mm-hmm. But I also got itchy feet. I'm the oldest brother, and our family was a very tight-knit family, and I was kind of bursting to just get out of it and go and see what was going on. Okay. And I got all the way to Sheffield, which is
40 miles is across
less than that. It's just over a hill, basically, where my godfather lived, which was my dad's best mate. Yeah. And I'd looked at all these different universities, but I think somebody just said to me in school, I heard Sheffield's a really good place to go. And that sort of stuck in my head. And I went, right, it's far enough away that they need notice if they're going to come and see me. Yeah. But it's close enough that I'm going to get my washing done if you need send it back. Yeah. It's one of them, isn't it? Yeah. And you think you're miles away, but you're not. So I moved to Sheffield for uni and never really looked back. Mm-hmm. Moved down to London for a time. I met my wife there and moved back to Sheffield, and I was a technology consultant. I worked in construction, worked in technology, doing my thing. And one day my dad, about 10 years ago, my dad called and went, right, it's time.
Okay.
If you want to come and help your brothers out,
yeah,
it'd be much appreciated. And I said,
so at that point it was an if. So you had the choice at that point. Or in your mind, did you ever...
No, come on, he said if.
Okay.
But I'm not going to turn it. I'm not going to turn... My dad was a wonderful guy who was humble and never really asked for much and never really, judged you or anything like that. Very impressive individual.
Uh-huh.
And if... I think that might be the only time in his life he ever went, I'd like you to do this.
Okay.
Yeah. And I respect that, and I felt like that is owed. Uh-huh. And so it was pretty much immediate where I was like, okay, I've got these 3 kids. I've got, a growing family and a growing life in Sheffield.
Yeah.
I've got an interesting conversation to have with my wife now.
Yeah.
So that was all fully supported, and I started commuting from Sheffield to here.
Okay.
So I said, I can do 2 or 3 years, and that was 10 years ago now.
So your 2 brothers are already in the business when you've come back?
Yeah, they've only ever worked here.
So they've gone through and through every job?
Yeah, they're proper.
They're
proper family business guys.
So have you ever talked about how they felt with you going off and doing your own thing and then coming back?
We're always talking about it.
Okay. and what was the feeling at the time? Clearly that's changed over the last decade, but on day one, was it weird? Were they like, oh my God, this is great, you're back? How did that all work?
Okay, so the first day, Joe was in an office, but Bernard had died quite a while ago. Uncle David, who ran the bakery, he was still around, but not sure how much. Liam was running the bakery. This is my brother Liam.
Yeah.
And Joe was trying to run everything to do with pieces of paper, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was all kind of falling in on him. And he looked at me and went, right, this is all happening. Yeah. And I was like, okay, fine, that's all good. And my dad was still around, of course, and he was just being dad, he run the business as he always had by instinct. His business plan was to, he said it loads of times, we open the door at the start of the day, we make a load of pasties and we sell them, and at the end of the day we have slightly more money than we had when we started the day.
Good, solid, simple business plan.
Yeah, and it works, right? Yeah. But I started saying, right, we need to do some marketing and we need to look at this brand. We've got a really great brand. Silence. Because nobody needs to know what a brand is at Carrs Pasties.
Yep.
So more fool me. But essentially we all had to learn together what a brand is, and we also had to learn what a strategy was. And this is difficult because this company's been going fine without me sticking my oar in.
Yep.
Talking about
strategy and branding and proposition.
all this stuff. So we brought in somebody, a fantastic woman called Carol Myers from Conception over in Trafford. And we actually borrowed Robinson's Brewery's boardroom. So that's got a bit of history in it.
Yep.
They're a whole family business in Stockport. And we all sat around the room and Carol said, right, it's 2020. This is in 2013.
Yep.
Where do you see the business? And actually I wrote down some kind of typical, anybody could have written my plan. Okay. I think we'll be growing and taking over, doing all this.
Yeah.
My brothers were pretty much, it'll be exactly the same.
Okay.
But my dad was like, well, in 2020, I think that, this place it could be anywhere, but no matter where it is, it's not necessarily anything to do with us anymore. We could have sold it by then.
Okay.
And for him to say that was giving us permission to actually say, right, now we have autonomy in this business and we can decide where to take it.
Wow. Okay.
Now, of course, we've not, we're a family business. It's kind of in our blood. But that one statement was really remarkable for him to go, all my life's work, all this stuff I've built with my family is now your thing. Yeah,
and the shackles are off and over to you.
Well, yeah, the shackles are on then, aren't they?
Well, okay, shackles are on maybe. Did that feel like weight at the time? Did you feel like hold on a minute, this has got a bit real?
I was really excited. It was a fantastic opportunity. If we got it right, we could sell this fantastic proposition of simple batch, small batch cooking, sort of not taste of home, but a taste of something like people would buy into the family element of it. People would buy into the fact that we're quite friendly and approachable. And people can buy into the fact that we look like we're having a good time, because we are. We get on together. We get on with everybody in the factory.
Yeah.
We're a team. We're a family ourselves. Here's the thing. Roger Ward, our spud supplier, sells us. He goes out to Scotland and everywhere to find us the best. He's our potato broker, right? So his dad sold my dad spuds.
Okay.
It's like that round here.
Yeah.
You know, and it's wonderful. Everybody buys into it.
Yeah.
And so I was really
trust and loyalty there, right?
Yeah.
So when he tells you something, you believe it's fact.
But also, when we tell the wider world about us, we don't have to make it up.
Yeah.
We mean it. And if you want to buy into it, fantastic. And that's kind of been what we've been doing.
Okay. Do you think at that time that you've just described with your father, he recognised the experience you had outside of the business, especially technology, and what you were going to bring to the business? Or do you think he just thought, I want all my sons back and doing this project?
He recognised that I was there to fill a gap that was required, but it was with a certain sense of trepidation.
Okay.
You know, there was a certain element of, fancy Matt who left home, you know, who knows what he's going to come out with.
Right,
and there's still an element of that. And
you're the wild card, is that?
I'm not the person who knows what to do with this business, right?
Okay.
So what I can say, though, is I've been out a bit and I've dealt with a lot of businesses and I've helped grow businesses and I've learned some lessons. And I brought these back, and now me and my brothers can say with conviction that I know how to run a business, they know how to run this one.
Yeah.
And between us, there's a bit of a healthy tension and we get it right.
Okay.
So far.
Yeah. So let's talk about that then. So the shareholding has shifted from your father's generation into yours.
So he bought out completely. He bought everybody out.
Okay.
And
then it all came to you, and you bought that from your father.
Yeah. Well,
so
bought in inverted commas, but yeah.
How did that was that just a seamless transition?
It was remarkable. So David's got 7 kids. Bernard's got, better get this right, 3. Let's say there's a number of kids around everywhere.
Okay, yeah.
And so everyone's got vested interests, because they're proud. It's their name above the door as well. And what we had to do was put a valuation on the business and then put a real valuation on the business and make sure that everybody was, recompensed on reflection of all of the work that everybody put in.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't there for that negotiation. Actually, there was 2 cousins in the business, that weren't in the business, that came in to facilitate that.
Okay.
So they knew their parents, but they also knew everybody else.
Okay.
And they came up with basically what we thought was fair.
Okay.
And in fact, we asked them what was fair.
Yeah, and they mediated and make it all work.
I'd be very interested to hear, if anybody listens to this podcast from my family, please give me a bell. I'd love to know what your opinion of it was at the time. But everybody seems to have been happy, and I think they're all following, with interest. And we have cousins in the business now. So we've got Judith, who runs basically all our financial controller stuff.
Okay.
Bernard's daughter. We've got Helen, Dave's daughter. We've got Chris McNulty, who's actually my eldest auntie, who was never her mum was never in the business. Okay. She ran a butcher shop with Alan Law down the road. And so we've got people around who...
Amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, I've just spotted a 5th generation, someone who's just having some work experience here.
Okay.
And yeah, she will have been... No, so she's my cousin Gemma's kid. So that's another 4th generation. But they're dotted around. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a great dynamic.
Yeah.
So you guys have done the deal. You're the owners of the business now. You've taken on, the stewardship of this brand. How do you organise yourselves to keep... Because you've got family on one side and you'll see each other on the weekends doing your socials, and then you've got the boardroom on other days where you can have healthy conflict. How do you manage all that?
So we'll leave the roles out of it.
Yeah.
We've got decisions to make as a business. How the big decisions we've always said have to be unanimous. Mm-hmm. So let's take coronavirus. March 2020, this place was flying. We were panic making pasties and people were panic buying pasties. Okay. And it was a scrum in the shop. And we just went, I don't know what's happening, but let's, and then all of a sudden we had to realise, hang on a minute, there's something happening here.
Yeah.
We need to keep everybody safe. I'm not sure what I'm seeing in there and what I'm seeing in the shop is safe. And we all recognised that. So we sat down in our Joe's front garden.
Okay.
2 meters apart on different, outside.
Yeah.
With Joe's wife lobbing tea at us from a safe distance. And we had to come out with that meeting going, right, are we an essential service? I think we could claim that we are. Or should we shut down and, figure out how to do it and open up again? And because the town of Bolton love our products, it's easily convinced. We could all be easily convinced that, no, we're needed.
Yeah.
But actually, we are, but, are we essential?
Yeah.
We're not a convenience store. You can't come to us and buy everything you need for a week and then go home. You have to nip in to buy something,
Yeah.
So without saying who was who, two of us thought we were an essential service, and one of us was saying, no, I think we need to shut down. And we sat there for quite a while, and we couldn't make that decision until 2 or 1 were actually convinced that, no, you're right, let's do it, let's go. And so the decision was made to shut down.
Okay.
But that was only after a really intense conversation about who we are, about what the business is in its essence, about what we're required, about who thinks we're special, about what that means, all fundamental stuff.
Wow, deep.
Really deep. It was really deep.
And in a really condensed period of time.
And it really mattered because I think it was after furlough had been announced.
Okay.
So there was a possibility that we could shut down.
Yeah.
Anyway, we took the decision. We shut down, I think, on the same day or maybe the day before or the day after. I can't remember who went first, but McDonald's shut about the same time.
Okay.
And then everybody like us all shut down.
Yeah.
And that was great, right?
Yeah.
That meant we're able to do it. The company's going to be safe for now. We can pay everybody, keep everybody safe, send them home. So that was an example of quite an important decision.
Yeah.
But every decision like that has to be unanimous.
Okay.
And me, Liam and Joe are good at that.
Yeah.
But there is a thing where you swap from being shareholders and directors on a board of a small business to 3 brothers in a room.
Yeah.
And it happens like that.
Does it?
All right, we're not going to get anywhere today. Let's just take a break. That has been pretty hard on all of us. There's been some things said.
Yeah.
We'll leave it in the boardroom now. Okay, meeting over. And then we all sort of come out of a trance and sort of look at each other and go, that was weird, wasn't it?
and you can all compartmentalise.
So far, so good.
Brilliant.
Look, I'm not saying it's all been, easy.
Yeah.
I think we all go home and talk to our wives about that. I don't know, can you swear on a podcast? Let's just assume you can't. Well, I'm only going to say dickhead. That dickhead brother of mine, whatever. And I'm sure that's all been happening. I know I do it. Sorry, Liam. Sorry, Joe. But we say it to each other. Don't worry about that. And we all recognise that, we all think each other's mad in different ways. And actually, we all recognise that we are a bit odd in different ways because nothing matters as far as your career goes. That's kind of assumed, right? You're a shareholder of a business.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to be fired from a shareholder of a business. I've tried. It's not working.
It's not working.
It might work now. It's an interesting dynamic, but we've stayed solid.
Okay.
Sorry, you shouldn't tap the.
Don't worry about it.
Shouldn't tap the.
So you've gone through this. So we went through the pandemic. Clearly, incredibly difficult for lots of businesses like yours. We've come out the other side. There's a big period of growth going on, and what does the next phase of the business look like? What are you trying to achieve? What do you want to do? How's it going to work?
So this room that we're in is one of a phase of development so these new offices that we have that we've moved into a few months ago, it represents a phase of development that is really changing what Carrs Pasties is, and how quickly it can move. A good business, in order to be productive, needs clear vision. It needs a really good management team and leadership team in order to manage that vision and to communicate it to the rest of the company. It needs fantastic training for everybody in the company to make sure that everybody is aware of what their own role is and how it fits in the overall picture. And you need to do a lot of digitization, which is obvious, an obvious problem of our time. So if you do all those 4 things, you become productive. And we're doing all those things, but when you go from a company of 40 people in 2013 to a company that's today, on today's count, I think about 130, maybe 125, you really need those things in place. So we didn't have any of those things in place in 2013, but we've got everything.
Okay.
And we've got a good leadership team that is pretty much well populated now, and if not, it's done by external companies. Like we have a guy who runs an IT company who has been transformational in getting us on the digitization track. And yes, he's on the leadership team, and yes, he does seem to send us a lot of invoices. Yeah, but he's been brilliant for us.
He's the specialist that's really helped drive the business.
Same with HR. And same with a couple of other things. But we've got the head of operations, Gavin, who was our first senior hire outside the family to replace my brother, who was running the bakery. Yeah, and that took a real brave move from my brother Liam to say, yes, I am the person who is now going to step aside and stop doing the job that I've done all my life. Yeah. And I'm going to leave my crew behind in the bakery, and I'm going to go and find something else to do in the business, because this guy, Gavin, is more qualified than me and understands what the future will hold. Okay. So he's got the bigger picture. Yeah. It's the same with me. I've got the head of commercial who's about to join Carrs Pasties next month, John O'Brien. He's going to do exactly the same. And we've gone from a profitable company that turns over just over 2 million to a profitable company that, is knocking on the door of 10 quite soon. Yep. And, we're about sort of 7 or something now, but we've got a new shop opening and there's various other things happening. We can see 10 clearly in our sights. Yep. But to double that takes something else. Yep. I've worked for companies who turn over £20 million and they don't look like this. Uh-huh. There's a journey to go through, and we're going to have to be there to make sure that when it happens, we're still Carrs Pasties and we still have that lovely community feel and that lovely family feel. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do it like everybody else does it, because you're a family business. Yeah. You don't even do it like other family businesses do it. Yeah. You do it your own way.
So you're going to bring in some new talent to help drive this next phase of growth. Yeah. You clearly have a really strong proposition that you want to maintain. Yeah. How are you going to manage that? Because that could potentially conflict, especially if you guys are necessarily out of the day-to-day. So how's that going to work?
There is a strong set of values that everybody in the business knows. We work as a family, we do the right thing, we fill everything with pride. Yeah. And underneath that is a load of stuff that explains to everybody what that means. And it was as a result of a lot of consultation, but a lot of actual brainstorming between me and my brothers and others. And then we kind of announced what the values are. Okay. And that worked really well, because we needed people to buy in, and we needed to lead from the front. Yeah. These days, though, we've got some really intelligent, really energetic, really passionate people that work for us. And we selected some people who were not maybe, senior leaders, but managers or others that were in the business, team leaders maybe, who were perhaps, around, in their 20s, around there. And we got them all in a room, or rather we got a facilitator, a family business facilitator. Shout out to Sue Howarth and Dave Clarkson from the family business community. Yep. And they sat in a room and went, right, we're going to do a values exercise. And they came up with another 6 set of values that really mean something to them. Really remarkable words like we are driven and fearless. Okay. And we know what we're doing. But there's also we're completely open and welcoming, which is like a diversity thing without But they all came from the heart, and so now we've published those, and actually we've put them on the walls outside. Look, outside we are driven, fearless, and dedicated to our roles. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, really, really great. So they own those values. And we communicate it to the rest of the company, and that you do things like that. Okay. You do things like that to do with delegation, but also everybody knows who we are, why we come to work, and what we do. They buy into it, but then they have their own reasons. Yeah. And you need to include that in order to understand, in order for it to be authentic.
Mm-hmm. And these new senior hires that are coming in, are you evaluating them against some of these values when you're sat in front of them?
Very much so.
Are you tell me how that process works then, and how you go about doing that.
So it's quite an intensive process, actually, for the people who are being interviewed.
Yeah.
We have a series of interviews that you would say are your classic type of interview, and we'll whittle that down to 2 or 3 people. Mm-hmm. But then they'll come into the business, and without preparation, they know they've got, I think, 6 hours with us, maybe 4 or 5 hours with us.
Okay.
They come into the business, and there's some of those managers, in the room,
right?
And we're actually observing at this point.
Okay.
And they're tasked to go out into the business, have a look around, and come up with a 100-day plan for us.
Okay.
And they have to then engage with the staff. They have to understand. They've had to actually done some research on us and understand what's going on, and then come back, and they have a team of people there to help them get this presentation together. And then, however you can do it, all right, what's your proposition? We're not expecting a polished PowerPoint slide. In fact, I'd be a bit disappointed if we did get that. But yeah, Gavin, our head of operations, really nailed it.
Right.
When he joined us, by the way, in March 2020.
Oh, really? Good timing. It's good timing. Yeah.
So when he joined...
Welcome aboard, Gavin. Just shut these operations down.
He was perfect because he was able to convince us that we didn't need to make pies anymore.
Okay.
Because it's 20% of our turnover and 80% of our effort.
Yeah.
Not really that, but it gives you an idea.
Okay.
And he said, we need to get rid of something in order to introduce social distancing and keep everybody safe as we're manufacturing.
Okay.
And so we waved goodbye to our beautiful pie machine.
Yeah.
It's like a Trigger's broom. Almost everything had been replaced on it at some point.
Uh-huh.
But the radical change that Gavin brought in, we already trusted him because we've been through this interview process.
Yeah.
And we were all in on Gav.
Yeah.
So he was saying, we need to do this. And we were like, yep. All right.
Brilliant. So it really helps you break down those trust barriers very early with the process that you work through.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to professionalise the management team, which is going to give you the foundations to do the next wave of growth.
Yeah.
You've talked about other generations already in the business and from different bits of the family. So how does that work, sort of squaring that circle? You potentially got new generations who want to come in, potentially want to take over from you, take shareholding, leadership roles, but you've also got to have this professional layer of management. So have you 3 given any thought to how you're going to manage that particular scenario? Just
to underline to anybody listening to this that's wondering what the hell me, Liam and Joe do now.
Yeah.
We're in a family council sort of situation.
Okay.
We're in the business, some more than others. Liam currently is battling with a lot of plasterboard. He's building a new set of rehearsal rooms and performance area and hopefully recording studio for our sort of side project, which is a youth music project called Rocket Bolton CIC.
Okay.
It's a not-for-profit and it's designed as one of those weekend clubs that it's accessible to all and all-inclusive, and people come in and sort of find themselves, and especially if they're into music or even if they're not, it's one of those things that makes them creative, gives them confidence, gets them out there and performing original songs that they write themselves. We're moving from a place that we rented. We've actually found somewhere that we can make our own. And Liam now has been able to go, right, see you in a few weeks, everybody. I'm going to go and do this.
Brilliant. Because
Gavin's there to do everything, right? Yeah. And Liam has already been involved in B2B sales for many years, but that's also doing really well. Mm-hmm. Liam's great. We're all great, but Liam's great.
Yeah.
And so he's been able to do that. And he can see the value of being unshackled from the business because he can now work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all doing to some extent.
Okay.
Joe's still looking after elements of the business day to day.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be, doing other things as well, but making sure that this place runs day to day. We'll be part of the leadership team.
Yeah.
And we'll be around. We'll still be sticking our oar in. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So what was your original question?
So then about aspirations for the next generation potentially coming through.
So look, then you're getting into conversations that are usually behind closed doors, because I can say what happens to a 4th generation business. Mm-hmm. There aren't that many 4th generation businesses around.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's because you don't prune the tree. which is what we have done.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe you need to prune the tree again. Maybe it should become an actual family business where everybody in the business has some sort of share in it. Maybe somebody swoops in and offers a truckload of cash that would be hard to say no to. We're not doing that, by the way. We're having a lot of fun. You know, we've got a lot of options ahead, and our kids are young.
Yeah.
So I think this family council element has a bit of legs in it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to worry about it for another 10 years, really, until we've got a serious proposition from the fourth generation. Yeah. In the meantime, though, there are people in this business who are happy working for us.
Yeah.
You know, but who's to say what happens there? You know.
Yeah.
It's going to be so interesting the next 10 years
to
see what happens. But you do need to make a plan for all of those things I've mentioned so that it doesn't come as a shock to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, that's quite complicated to do. And you do think, actually, how are there any fourth generation businesses?
Yeah. Well, it's incredibly emotive, isn't it, for starters?
Well, we might mess it up yet. You know,
track record says otherwise. Yeah.
But it might happen. It might not be worth anything in 10 years.
Yeah.
No, so you don't take your eye off the ball. You push it as hard as you can.
Yeah.
You remain open to possibilities. That's certainly what my dad did.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't a strategy. That was more, he was the youngest one, and he had to do. He was kind of boxed into a corner, really. But he did it remarkably well, and very inspiring what he did.
Yeah, and you got that taste for the business at a young age, as you've described.
Yes.
Do you create opportunities, you know, for your children or any of their cousins to come in and just get the feel for what it's about?
That door's always open.
Okay.
We've probably got, because it's the summer holidays.
Yeah.
There's probably 6 or 7 of those knocking about.
Yeah.
Who are teenagers and sort of having
getting them on the lines, doing bits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And what do they say about it? What feedback do you get?
I'm ashamed to say, other than, hey, how you doing? And they sort of look at me startled because they're confronted with a queue of people in the shop and they don't know how the till works.
Yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up, rabbit in the headlights sort of thing. And I remember doing that.
Yeah.
So I just leave them to it.
Okay.
You know, but I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
And also I'm very tired.
Yeah.
And actually, this isn't
is
as
real.
much. Yeah, and this isn't as much money as I thought it would be.
Let's go back then over the time in your leadership. Is there a point that you can really sort of focus in on where you go, that was a real pivotal point in my ownership and my leadership of this business?
So we're going to take the singular out of that because it's a very much a shared responsibility, this position between me, Liam and Joe.
Okay.
It's a really great question. I think it was probably early on when we decided what type of growth to go for. And so we took a decision that we were going to start trading outside Bolton.
Okay.
And at the time, it got a very good laugh at places. If I was asked to speak anywhere, I'd talk about exporting. You know, and it was only like sort of 2 minutes later, people realised I was talking about Manchester.
Yeah.
But that was real. Everybody in Manchester, don't like a pasty, I like a pie.
Yeah.
You know, and Wigan, good grief, we're surrounded by, you know, these entrenched positions.
Yeah.
And we're like, well,
lots of strong identities.
Yeah, we better stay where we are. Yeah, we don't want to start getting ideas above our station.
Yeah.
But actually, we make a great product. People are buying into it. The town next door, Bury, already know and love us. You know, we've got people, you know, who drive up from down south because they used to live in Bolton, and you know, and get a load of frozen and then drive back down. You hear all these stories, and it's the decision to go, right, let's just start looking up and out of Bolton. I think was a small but really, really important decision that we were all bought into.
Okay.
Because the decision could easily be, let's just open another 30 shops around Bolton in the 5 mile radius.
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of companies do.
Yeah.
That would be fine. But actually we went, no, I think we've got something here. And it's taken us 10 years of failing and learning from those failures to understand what it is and what our next steps will be. And, you know, the big F word is franchising for us.
Okay.
So this year we're going to learn all about franchising and decide whether there is a family business way to do franchising.
Okay.
Because people buy in literally to your business and then take on a franchise manual. Can you put in that franchise manual what is so special about Carrs Pasties?
Yeah.
And is that word special the most important thing about it? You know, it's a really fascinating thing. Also, is it a suitable business plan for us?
Yeah.
Well, we're just about to open our next store in Middlebrook, which is the biggest retail park in the country. It's next door to Bolton Wanderers. Our new shop is going to be next door to Greg's.
Okay.
It opens in a couple of weeks. We've got everybody recruited for it. We're very excited. We're just training people now. You know, we're going to be opening quite soon. And that has been our sort of cost build up for the proposition. You know, we can, everything we're doing, we can put into a franchise manual.
Yeah.
Now we have to learn all about it, and we've got a consultant in and others to, and we're going to report to the leadership team at the end of the year to say, right, this is what franchising is for us.
Yeah.
Are we going to put it in the mix?
Go on over.
And if we decide to put it in the mix, then we have that growth plan.
Yeah.
If we have another type of, well, actually, no, I think we should do it on our own, fine. And we also have trade customers, independent businesses that share our values.
Okay.
We've said no to all the supermarkets.
Yeah.
We've said no to anybody that might, you know, represent a really big offer for us because we're having too much fun.
Yeah.
And actually, what else are we going to do really?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's nothing as fun as this. There's nothing as annoying as this. There's nothing as frustrating as this. And there's nothing as rewarding as this. It's just we are where we are.
Yeah.
And my brother's now just sort of coming out. He's just come out of a really, something that keeps him going, which is part of, you know, helping the day-to-day stuff tick along and be the heart and soul of the company. I really love thinking about the numbers and thinking about where it could go. Liam is the heart and soul of the place. And between the three of us, I think we all need to be around in some respect. So in answer to your question, what was the thing? It was the moment all three of us gave ourselves permission to look up and look around and go, right, what's next?
And more than that, your plan now is to do even more looking up and looking around with a professional team coming in.
Totally, yeah. And we've got some brilliant new customers coming down the pipe. You know, there's a massive arena being built in Manchester. It looks like we're going to be involved with that.
Superb.
We'll do more with Bolton Wanderers, but there's other as yet unnamed football clubs in the area that are interested. We have these other companies with really big plans who are in the convenience sector, but also in the food to go sector, who we can partner up with.
Yeah.
And all their plans are exciting. And because we've been able to look up all that time ago and gone, right, we need to get ourselves sorted. I mean, it's all been fun, but this is another fun bit coming up.
Yeah.
We've got now the ability to just see what is like what the next step is.
Yeah, you put yourself on the map, and those opportunities are coming to you now, right?
They are, yeah.
Superb.
Yeah. I'll tell you it. I've got the answer. I've got the answer. Chris Evans wrote about us in the Daily Mail.
Okay.
Joe had been down with my dad down south with what was that guy's name? Stacey Jeffries was his name. He's a Bolton guy, but he's a big name in the charity sector.
Okay.
If you want something big done for Help the Heroes, you call this guy, and he gets all his contacts to come and play a round of golf.
Yeah.
So you had like everybody from Alan Hansen to load of like actual golfers, Sam Torrance, people like that. But then you had like people like Kevin Keegan, Chris Evans, you know, all these people they were playing Stoke Park down south.
Okay.
And we were knocking out pasties from the sixth hole, and it was raining a lot.
Right.
And everybody was hiding in the marquee instead of playing golf. Chris Evans came in and he had a meat and potato pasty. And he walked away, and then he immediately came back in, started looking at everybody. Can I have another one of those, please? I went, all right. And he was having a chat, everyone was having a laugh, but he was inspecting it. And he was like, and then he came back and he went, can I have another one of those? I was like, yeah, all right, you can have another one. Turns out I don't know whether you know or you listen to Chris Evans, but he gets obsessed with things.
Yeah.
And for a little while there, he got obsessed with us.
Right.
He wouldn't do the 8 traffic on Radio 2 or whatever the breakfast show was at the time until everybody in the studio had tried a Carrs Pasty because it was clean out your freezer day.
Okay.
Right?
Superb.
Now, since then, I don't think anybody at the BBC, if we get an opportunity, he goes, "No, you're not going to mention the brand, are you?" Right? Because whatever he'd done was not approved of. But the headline was, "If Carrs Pasties ever want to go global, I'm in. This might be my Victor Kiam moment." Right?
Okay.
And he started talking about selling Porsches in order to...
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. But that gave us the permission to look up.
Brilliant.
And go, bloody hell, do you think we've got something here?
Yeah.
And we're still sending pasties and supply the old party for him. And he's great. He's been brilliant for us.
Superb.
But I think he's mystified as to why we've kept him at arm's length.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He wants to get in.
Yeah, we're not letting him in.
I don't think we can finish in a better way than the Chris Evans story. I'm going to ask you 3 very quick fire questions. Yeah. What do you dislike about being a business owner?
It's not the responsibility. It's not the hard decisions. It's the day-to-day. It's the getting up in the morning. Actually, you've got 2 ways to get up in the morning, haven't you? Really energised, having a really clear idea of what the business is, and you can't wait to race into work. Mm-hmm. Any business leader that tells you that they do that every day, they're just not telling you the truth. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you wake up and you know that things are going wrong, and you know you've got that difficult decision, and you know that nobody's going to make it for you, and you know that you're going to have to go in and do that difficult thing.
Okay.
And you can't control when that is.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you're in those modes and they pile up on top of each other, it's not great being a business owner.
That's the thing. Flip it around then. What do you love about being a business owner?
I'm not working for the man, am I? You're right. Right?
Freedom.
I spent so many years working for big businesses, small businesses, and I've got that freedom to actually. Yeah, it turns out you work more than you should probably, but you've got that freedom to go. Do you know what? Today we're going to do this, and I think that cannot be underestimated. And my advice to my kids is, as they're choosing their careers, find out what you love, find out a way to do it, find out a way to make money from it, but most of all, try and find out how to make your own business out of it. Mm-hmm. Because then you've got some freedom and you've got some autonomy, and that cannot be underestimated. Okay. Yeah.
Last question. If you could change one thing in the world of business, what would it be?
The perception that everybody needs to grow. I've spent a lot of time as part of other business groups figuring out how to kickstart the SME world, how to make everybody more productive. I do a lot of work with Be The Business, whose aim is to make UK's businesses more productive. People don't want to know how to grow. Quite a lot of people are quite happy employing 10 people, and they don't need a growth strategy. They just need to figure out how their business can be better. Mm-hmm. So get rid of the G word and put in the word improve, because everybody wants to improve their business. And if you want people to engage with all of the all of the help that's out there for people, all the help that's out there for different businesses, talk about how to improve your business. Talk about how to improve the careers of the people that work for you. Not everybody wants to grow, and that's fine. But some of them accidentally will as they go to improve. Yeah. I think that's my only thing.
Superb. Matt, thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Cheers.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Matt. I found it fascinating. The 3 big takeaways for me. The first is that the family values just run through Matt, his brothers, and the entire organisation. I think you saw that instantly from Matt, the way he talks about the business. And we've met loads of the staff today as we've been setting up and moving around the organisation. And they are all identical in terms of the values, in terms of what they look. The family values runs incredibly strongly through this business. The second takeaway from me was that despite there being 3 brothers, and let's face it, siblings don't always get along, they've got a really clear way of making the big decisions. And I think that's a really interesting learn for any other businesses out there that have got, siblings or multi-generational in the business, and how you can make those critical and important decisions. Last but not least, and I think probably the most impressive thing I've seen and heard today from Matt, and also how he talks about his brothers, is that they recognise their own strengths and that they have done incredibly well over the last decade, but the business is now getting to a size and a scale where they need to professionalise, bring in outside experts to really fuel the next wave of growth. And the fact that they recognise that in themselves, for me, is one of the biggest takeaways, and something that you see lots of businesses struggle with, and lots of family businesses have that challenge. And I think the example Matt and his brothers have given today is another really interesting insight. So I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to catching up with you on the next podcast, and until then, take it easy, guys. Thank you.